Live from the Zoom studios, the 17 and Me Show, starring Ambassador Jeff Rivero, inviting you to join our special guest, Dr. Amy Frame. And here we go!
Welcome to the 17 and Me Show, the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals show. Our special guest on tonight's show is Dr. Amy Frame from 10 Strands. I can't wait to ask her about schools' sustainability, which brings up solar panels. Why are solar panels so optimistic? Because they keep sunny side up? I have a friend that works at a battery company. I asked him one time, how do you like working there? He told me, it has its positives and it has its negatives. The other day, my son came up and asked me, Dad, can you tell me what a solar eclipse is? I told him, no sun. He said, why not, Dad? Whoa, you know what? I was about to tell you about my trip to Santa Cruz. All right. So the other day, I'm on the beach in Santa Cruz and I see a police officer arresting someone. As I got closer, I could see the police officer bend down, grab a phone out of the water and put it into an evidence bag. I asked the police officer, why are you arresting this man? He held up the evidence bag and said, salt and battery. Well, we're going to have a great show tonight. We have Dr. Amy Frame from 10 Strands here. Can't wait to ask her about school sustainability. But first, we're going to have a commercial break from our sponsors, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations. See you right back after this commercial.
We can be.
We must be the first generation
to end extreme poverty.
The generation
Most determined
to fight injustice
and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done.
The global goals.
A 15-year plan
For everyone, everywhere.
with no one left behind.
We will live in a world
where nobody
anywhere
lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
Where no one
Wakes in the morning.
asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world
Where no child has to die.
Diseases we know how to cure.
And where proper health care
is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world
Where everyone
Goes to school.
and education gives us the knowledge
And skills.
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
to thrive
And be powerful.
and safe.
we cannot succeed if half the world is headed back.
We will live in a world
Where all people can get clean water.
and proper toilets
At home,
at school
and at work.
We will live in a world where there is
sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat, light.
and power for the whole planet.
without destroying the planet.
We'll live in a world where economies prosper.
a new wealth.
lead to decent jobs.
For everyone.
And we will live in a world where our industry,
our infrastructure and our
Best innovations.
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
we will live in a world
Where prejudices and extremes of inequality
Are defeated.
inside our countries
And between different countries.
Where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
and support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume.
Planet where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back from
climate change.
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
Will restore
and protect
Life on land.
The forests.
Animals, the earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
and answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people
Work together.
Partnerships of all kinds.
To make these global goals a reality.
These are the United Nations global goals
For sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
Well, thank you to our sponsors, the United Nations. Our special guest tonight is Dr. Amy Frame from 10 Strands. She is the K-12 program manager. How are you doing tonight, Amy?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here.
Well, Amy, I can't wait to hear more about what's going on at 10 Strands. But first, can I ask you a little bit about your background? What led up to your passion for the environment and sustainability?
Yeah, definitely. So I was one of those people that was lucky enough to have a family that took me camping and to feel connected to nature from a young age. And as soon as I entered school, I knew immediately that I wanted to be a teacher. I made my little sister play school in the corner of my tiny little room growing up. And so I didn't know that my love for the environment and my passion for education were going to become so interconnected. But in essence, after I graduated from college, I started teaching. I had the opportunity to then become an administrator in California's K-12 system and actually open up a couple of middle schools that were entirely environmentally focused and project-based. And a chance to be a school leader at a couple of other sites. Along the way, I ended up studying everything I could about what was the absolute most effective way to help students feel a sense of stewardship for the environment through my dissertation at UCLA, and came full circle back to what I already knew in my heart, which is that outdoor ed and just spending time outdoors is really one of the absolute most important things that our students can do. So now I have a dream job working at 10 Strands, and we are working to support all sorts of different public-private partnerships across California to make sure that our 6.4 million students actually have access to environmental literacy, outdoor education, and sustainability-based learning. So it's all together for me now.
That sounds wonderful. And now that you're at 10 Strands, you're the K-12 program manager. What passions are you bringing to that position?
Another huge passion of mine, and I think the reason that so many people go into education is that they want every student to have amazing opportunities. And we know that our educational system is so completely inequitable. Some students get camping, other students get testing, and I think 10 Strands all along has been committed to saying that, this is not something that some of our students deserve. It's something that every single student deserves. And that's easier said than done. So, part of my passion is for super nerdy things like content standards, frameworks, policies, regulations. And I love that. And that's important because here in California, we actually have done a lot of work to create a supportive context where, on paper at least, and by law, whether you're in science, history, social studies, health, arts, or your math classes, you're supposed to be learning our environmental principles and concepts. But you can't just expect that to happen. People need to be trained, they need to be coached, they need to be mentored, networked, and nurtured. And so helping people go from something that's an ideal to something that is really happening for our students is the most beautiful part of my job, because I get to meet people all throughout the state of California, in cities, in rural areas, north, south, everywhere, who know that this is important and who are trying to make it happen. So the passion is really just, not to stop until students are able to graduate from California K-12 schools feeling connected with the environment, feeling like they belong, feeling empowered, feeling like it is an opportunity for meaningful careers and meaningful higher education pathways. So I guess the passion comes from working with so many people who also feel the same way and are trying to work together very generously to figure out how to make that happen.
It's time for our commercial break. We'll see you back in just a moment.
What kind of planet will our future generations inherit? Now more than ever, we need leaders, visionaries, and change makers. But that's not all. We need a critical mass of the population to stand up for our world. That's why at 10 Strands, we're working with the largest K-12 education system in the country to reach California's future leaders on a large scale. Focusing on California public school districts with support from community-based organizations, 10 Strands is working to bring environmental literacy to all of our 6.2 million students. By building public-private partnerships, we're increasing our collective capacity to create change. And by advocating for legislation that ensures all California students have the opportunity to learn about the environment in their communities, we're driving lasting change. None of us can do this work alone. Join us to maximize your impact. Together, we'll ensure a healthy future for our planet and all its inhabitants through education. 10 Strands, connecting education, environment, and community.
Well, we're back from our commercial break. I have Dr. Amy Frame here from 10 Strands. Amy, I'm proud of your button there. Can you tell us where you got your 17 Sustainable Development Goals button?
I got my button from Dr. Emily Schell down in San Diego working on the Global Education Project when I got to work over a summer with some teachers who were working on sustainable communities and cities curriculum for their students that culminated in a huge showcase of civic engagement projects down there. They were really inspiring.
This gives me a perfect segue into the portion of the show where I ask our guests, which one of the 17 SDGs do you have the most passion for and why?
All right. So my absolute passion is goal 11, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Because, you know, my first 20 years of education were right in the heart of Los Angeles. I was working in South Central LA, I was working in Inglewood, and I was working with kids who at first thought that the environment was something different, something out there, something that was not them, something that I don't know, that other people did, you know, and just what I found and what I learned and what I experienced was that number one, everyone belongs in nature and far away nature. And we need to make sure that people feel safe, that they feel included, that they have access, that lots of sort of barriers to transportation, parking, fees, all of, you know, structural racism, that all of these things don't exclude people, because once people make it out there, people connect. I've seen thousands and thousands of people who go from no connection to feeling like it was their connection with nature was the most important things in their lives. And then what happens is they come back and they look in their city and they realize that those things are here too. There's pollinators here too. There's ecosystems here too. And they need stewardship just as much as the faraway ones as well. And so I think really making people feel and understand that cities have the biggest impact on nature and that we still depend on nature in cities. And so that means that we have a huge ability to impact it for the better too, when we decide to deal with, you know, I don't mean to veer into the other ones, but it includes our water system, our transportation system, our energy system, our food system. All of those end up making cities sustainable, inclusive, and healthy for everyone and for future generations too. And to undo a lot of the wrongs that have been done to various communities and various environmental injustices over time too. Like human beings did those and human beings can undo them. So just find it really inspiring to help city people like myself feel included in this work as well.
Our time has really flown by tonight, Amy. But before you go, I'd like to ask you, do you have any words of encouragement or inspiration for our viewers and our students, or any words of advice for their future? I'd love to hear some of your insight.
Yeah, I love this question. I want students to know that students' passion around needing to learn about climate change, about causes, and about solutions really inspired and motivated hundreds and hundreds of adults that I work with across the state and across the country. So if you think that what you say doesn't matter, that's not true at all, because I've been doing this work for my whole career, and there was a really big shift that happened. There are a lot of grownups that are listening to you and that care a lot about giving you what you need for the kind of future that you want for your kids and grandkids and the plants and the animals and the rocks and the minerals and all of that too. I'd say also that no matter what it is that you think you want to do with your career, with your life, like every job is a green job if you make it one, right? You want to go into fashion? Well, where do those fibers come from and where do they go? You want to go into plumbing? Awesome. That's one of the most important things to deal with our water conservation, our water system. It connects to our energy system. So, you know, you don't have to choose something that is just environmental. You can look for the sustainable and equitable way to do anything that you already have a passion for. And that we're going to need every single one of you to do work like that to make the transformations that we need so that we can all live in a healthy environment that is being restored as the decades go on instead of destroyed. So, you know, be bold and demand what's right. And you might not be heard in the beginning, but eventually you will. So thank you.
Well, thank you for those encouraging words, Amy. People need to know that the road to environmental recovery is a long haul, and it's going to take a lot of us. And I think you framed it up there perfect. So thank you very much for being in our show tonight. Is there any announcements, or if somebody wants to get hold of you about 10 frames, how would they go about doing that?
Well, you can definitely contact me and we'd love to hear from you. So aframe@10strands.org, and I'll include that link. And I think the most important event that you might be able to do right now as students is to learn about your own communities. So school's pretty weird right now, but you know, walk around your neighborhood if it's safe to do that. Like look and see what's going on, see what kinds of organizations there are. Do a quick Google search, you know, for the things, and you'll be really surprised to find out how much people would love to hear from you. They'd love to work with you. They'd love to help you volunteer. They'd love to help you build your resume. They'd love to know your perspective. And to just get involved that way in case you have any free time while school's so weird here. I don't have any other particular events to promote at this time.
Please let everybody know down at 10 Strands. We appreciate the work they're putting in for our environment. And thanks again, Amy, for being on our show. If any listeners would like to learn more about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals or teach it in their classroom, please go to sdgs.org. Thanks again for watching our episode, and look forward to seeing you again next time.